Before making one of the biggest decisions of your life to get married, it's important to have crucial topics discussed with your significant other. You need to have the difficult conversations, even though it may feel awkward and you're shying away from them because you don't know how to ask. You don't know what should I even ask about this person to know whether or not they're a compatible spouse for me. This video will help you identify the key questions that you need to ask and the topics you need to discuss. To begin with, you need to figure out if your goals and values align. And so values look something like, values could be I value family, I value freedom and travel, I value relationships above all else, I value work above all else. People have different values. So you don't have to have the exact same values, but you have to be okay with each other's values. So if your value is relationship and family above all else, and your partner's values are work and freedom above all else, there might be an incompatibility there, and you need to figure out if this is something you can live with. When it comes to goals, you can also have the conversation about what are the long-term goals for you, what are the long-term goals for your partner, and goals can change, right? So when we have these conversations, it doesn't mean that you're never allowed to change your mind about certain things or change your values or change your desires and goals, but it just means from where you stand right now, does your goals feel mutual? Do they align? So your goals could be to start a family, their goal could be to become a millionaire. Does that align? Maybe it does, maybe it doesn't. So having that conversation, and you know what? Sometimes people don't even know what their values are. So I recommend that you start by doing an exercise separately with yourselves to figure out, what are my values in life? What do I value above all else? And what do I want to prioritize in my life in an ideal scenario? The next thing that you need to figure out and discuss, and this is something you'll be working on throughout your entire relationship, and it is how to communicate. Do your communication styles align? Do you often misunderstand each other? I mean, for me, my husband is from India. I am from Denmark. We both communicate to each other in English, which is neither of our first language. So there's a lot of misunderstandings that can happen, lost in translations type situations. And we've definitely had to identify this and discuss it. And we'll probably have to keep on doing that for the rest of our lives. Another thing to really consider is your love languages, and I made a video about love languages. If you don't know what that is, I'll link to that video up here. Figure out how your partner receives and gives love and see if that's something that works for you, or if that's something you can learn. Can you learn to speak their love language? And now on to a really difficult topic to discuss. It's often cause for a lot of friction because people have different ideas about this, but financial management, money, how are you going to deal with it? Are you going to share an account? Are you going to have separate accounts? Do you have loans? How do you deal with saving money? How would you like to spend your money? Is one person a big spender and the other one wants to be more frugal and save for the future? What are your stands on this? And what are you bringing into the relationship financially? Do you have savings already, or do you have a lot of debt? Like, these things need to be discussed, because unless you have a prenuptial agreement, then you are going to be sharing finances. Of course, I don't know where you're from. I'm from Denmark. That's how it works where I'm from. And I'm pretty sure that's how it works in most countries, that you end up sharing your finances with your spouse. So it's really important to clear this topic. It's not a very sexy topic to discuss, but it's important. And then we've got family and children. Do you both want children? And if yes, how many children do you want? And if you agree on that, when would you like to start having children? Would you like to start right away? Would you like to wait 5 years? Figuring out if you're compatible in this area is absolutely crucial, especially if one of you don't want children. Because that can be non-negotiable it is for most people. Then there's the talk about how to raise the children. Where would you like to raise them? How would you like to raise them in terms of religion and upbringing? And, all of these things, they can also change down the line. So we just want to start the conversation about, how do we feel about this now? Can we end up changing our minds later on? And compromise and figure it out. Of course, you don't have to agree on everything, but as long as you agree on the big picture stuff, on the most important non-negotiables for both of you. And here we got one that seems less important, but it actually in your day-to-day life is probably one of the most important ones, which is household responsibilities. Who does the dishes? Who cleans the place? Who does this? Who does that? Finding a way to share that equally, or finding a system that works for you, is really important, not just for a marriage, but for anyone who lives with their partner. It's so important. I made a video about tips for moving in together. It just reminded me of that one. I'm going to link to it up here. I go more into detail about all of this in that video. So discussing that and finding a solution that feels fair to both of you, I think it's very, very important as well. And then we've got intimacy and emotional connection. How much does intimacy mean to each of you? Usually for men, I'm just generalizing here. For men, intimacy is at the top of their list. It's one of the most important things in a relationship. For women, it usually comes second. Emotional intimacy is usually the top, and then the physical intimacy is on second. But talking about what does it mean for you? What does it mean for them? How do you plan to sort of keep that area of your lives alive and interesting and loving and connected? Can you start some rituals and practices to stay emotionally connected with each other? Because emotional connection leads to physical connection, in my experience. So having that conversation, again, this could change over time, but try to start the conversation now and see how it goes with these conversations. It's a good test to see, are you going to be fighting the whole time? How do you handle conflict? Because while having these conversations, I guarantee you will be having conflict. You won't agree on everything. That's not to be expected. And that if you don't agree on everything doesn't mean you can't get married. The key here is, how are you going to compromise? How are you going to figure it out together? And then we've got religion and spirituality. For some people, this is a complete deal breaker. For other people, they're more flexible with it. Do you expect your partner to have the same religious beliefs as you, or the same faith as you, spirituality as you? Or are you fine with them having their own thing? And how do they feel? Do they expect you to believe what they believe? And as I mentioned before, are you going to raise your children in a certain belief? Are you going to send them to Catholic school? Are you going to teach New Age spirituality to them? What are you going to do? And are you both okay with it? And this can change over time as well. For me and my husband, when we met each other in 2020, we shared more beliefs when it comes to spirituality. And then I think over time, we have some fundamental things we believe, both of us, but then we sort of have our own version of whatever that truth is. And we've grown apart a little bit in that area, but you know what? It's not a deal breaker for me, because he lets me believe what I want to believe. I let him believe what he wants to believe and practice his spirituality in whatever way he sees fit, and I practice mine. And it's not like a big thing now. It was a bit disappointing when we realized we were growing apart in that area, but I believe we overcame it. And it's as long as you're willing and able to let the other person be who they are, because life is long, and if you're going to be married and be together, then you can change multiple times throughout a lifetime, even when it comes to your faith. So start the conversation and see where it leads. We also need to discuss social life and independence. How much alone time do you need? How social are you? Are you an introvert or an extrovert? You don't have to be, it's actually very common that introverts and extroverts, they find each other. So you don't have to be the same way, both of you, but are you okay with the other person then going out a bit more than you do, or the other way around? And just try to identify who you are. All these conversations actually require you to have a lot of self-awareness about who you are and what you want. So if you don't have that yet, then I suggest starting there before you have the conversations. Or you can get the help of a professional. You're welcome to reach out to me. There's a link in the description below. There's going to be major life changes throughout your lives. It's going to happen again and again and again when you have children, when a lot of big things are going to happen in your life. So how you're able to have these conversations and manage them is really a great indicator of whether you're a good team, because you should never view the problems as you against the other person. It's more the two of you looking at this problem together. I hope these questions can help you figure out if you do have compatibility. And then you need to remember that there's a big difference between talking the talk and walking the walk. So you can have all of these conversations, yes, but how is your partner actually showing up in their actions? Of course you can't. You don't have a time machine. You can't go into the future and see if they're going to live up to what they're promising you now or talking to you about now. And they're allowed to change their minds, by the way, but that's really all you can do, is have the conversations and try to be as open and honest as you possibly can. The last thing I would recommend that you do talk about is your absolute deal breakers. What are your absolute deal breakers in a relationship? For some people, is, for example, infidelity is an absolute deal breaker. For other people, I know many couples where they say, you know what, if it happens once, I'll forgive. Some of them are even saying that I'd rather just not know if that happens, but if I'm with my lifelong partner and it's just a one-time thing and it means nothing, it's not a problem for me. For other people, it may be something else, right? So think about what are your deal breakers and what are their deal breakers, and then talk about it so you know if you're really that compatible. Do you have any comments or any questions? Then you're welcome to write them in the comment section below. I hope you found this video helpful, and if you did, please like it, subscribe to my channel, that would really help me out, turn on notifications, and I look forward to seeing you again soon.